them down a little bit that was included in the mailing that went out as well as in the press release. And this is being recorded and will be put on our website in the next couple of days as well. So if you reread it or rewatch it, you're welcome to do so. Hopefully you also received a copy of the FAQs that were distributed. I guess I should introduce myself. I'm Christina Murd. I'm the mayor of the city of Findlay. Thank you all for coming out this evening. So a couple of things that I want to start with before we go through this process. I want to be very clear, the city, is initiating this process for a couple of reasons. One, we want to clean up some of the holes of areas that are surrounded by city corporation and haven't been incorporated into the city. Clean up some of the perimeters or execute some of the annexation agreements to annex that were previously established. The city of Findlay is not going to force annexation on anyone. The only way that that would happen is if you are in a cluster, kind of some of our groupings that we're showing, and more than 61% of your neighbors or property owners agree to annex. Then we do plan to move forward with annexing those groups. If you're an individual parcel or something like that, we're going to force it. We are initiating this process because we believe that it is benefiting the properties. Ultimately, if you disagree, that's fine. No big sweat off my back. We'll move on with life. But we do feel that the information we're providing kind of shows some of the reasons that it may be beneficial to you as the property owner in question. So I'm going to go through a number of things. Tonight's format, I'm going to go through some slides. Again, they're pretty similar to the ones that were on the website. Then I'm going to go through some of the frequently asked questions, just hitting some of the highlights. And then we will have question and answer. The way we're going to do that tonight, because I know there's so many folks, we'll have pieces of paper where you can write down your question. We'll collect those, and the team here will kind of try to group them so that we answer the overall questions. I love you all. I know you have a lot of questions. We want to answer those questions, but we all don't want to be here for 5 hours tonight either. So if there are one-on-one questions that you want to have, we would rather have a phone call or sit down one-on-one, because one of the things about annexing is everybody's situation's a little bit different, right? Your scenario may be different if you're retired, if you're working currently in the city, if you're working and not in the city. So we're trying to give broad information and then are open to a conversation with you individually. Additionally, we're not talking tonight about the zoning or anything other issues. Tonight we're talking about annexation. As you would notice on the forms that we sent you or on the information, there was no zoning classification recommended for your property. We want to have a conversation with you about what we think is appropriate, what standards it meets. I know there's a couple of folks that were asking, I have horses or I have larger property. Right now we're actually looking at, an agricultural zoning classification. That may make more sense for you. So this is kind of a collaborative process. And so hopefully that everybody can take a little bit of a deep breath. It's not a, hey, we're here from the government, we're here to help situation, okay? So background, as I kind of outlined, some of the main reasons the city of Findlay is initiating this process is to clean up our map, to clean up some of the properties that are around our boundary that should have previously been annexed, just to clean those up, and then also positioning ourselves. We have had, different industries and businesses approach us that are kind of interested in coming into the area, that are interested in being in the city. But to do that, we have to have access to property for them to do that. So that has been a conversation, but is not a huge driver at this point in time. All right, cool. So the process today, obviously you all received a mailing or saw information in the news. Our goal is to have initial responses from property owners by March 1st, which again was in that letter. If you didn't receive a letter and you're interested in annexing, we also do have the letter of interest that is available for properties to say, hey, I'm interested in annexing. As part of this process, because we are initiating it, we are covering both the cost of filing as well as the cost of surveying. And that's where they'll come out, survey your property, give all the legal boundaries, all of that is necessary to file the paperwork. From here, we plan to then work with an attorney that will get their areas, we'll start compiling the paperwork, we'll identify the areas that we will end up moving forward with based off of the response. We'll notify those areas and kind of get the final paperwork. It is a lengthy process to go through the station, submitting it to the commissioners, there's a wait period, there's hearings. So it is cumbersome, but we'll kind of communicate as we start getting those together what that process looks like, so you're informed. Want to go over, so the areas that we're starting with, and for some reason my slides are out of order on the first couple, so I apologize, but no mind. So this area is the Speedway on Tiffin Avenue in Bright, kind of cleaning up that area. I get calls frequently on why are there not sidewalks there, or something going on. So that's not actually in the city limits. That is surrounded by court, but never brought into the city corporation limits. Here's some of the information. One of the key issues I didn't touch on is obviously safety services. With some of these pockets, we have great volunteer fire departments, or great township fire departments. I am in no means trying to belittle their efforts. We're very grateful to have them, but they also are farther away in trying to respond to these areas. And so that safety service response is really important to us, making sure that we have folks able to get to you quickly, as well as you'll hear later, it does have a potential impact on your property insurance rates. Section 3, here's where I talked about 2 and 3 are out of order, so I apologize. Section 3, southwest of Finley, just off of Main Street, surrounded by incorporated, so this is Bluebonnet, Bittersweet, this area. It says it at the bottom of the page, when you see the delineation of the yellow versus just the yellow are the ones that we have an agreement to annex on file. So that's recorded as part of your deed, that an agreement to annex is on file. And the majority of, I think all of the ones that I have seen said that when you were contiguous to this limits, within 90 days, you would annex into the city. So obviously we haven't been great about following up and making sure that occurred. Legally, we should have it. Technically, the burden was on the property owners. Again, I'm not trying to come in and say, now you have to do it, but we really would prefer, we made the investment to get the connections to utilities, do all those things, and so that agreement was filed at the time that was done.
Christina, on a couple of maps, there's a red outline that shows an area, and these first two don't show a red line like that. Are the yellow properties not in and everything else is in the city around that, or should there be a red line around what's not city?
So in this situation, each area is a little bit different, and I wasn't able to modify it. The red line doesn't really mean anything. Okay. Again, only the properties that received the letters are the ones that are being requested to annex. The majority of the areas, on the main page, if you want to see the corporation limits, the easiest way to do that is to go to the Hancock County Auditor's website. And on the left-hand side, you can select voting precincts, and that shows, if I go back a couple of slides, that shows this map, which is much easier to be able to see the differences, and you can zoom into it to show which parcels, and you can see some of the little gaps, the top left there, right along 75, for example, that isn't annexed. All right, so this is on Bright Road. There's 2 or 3 parcels right there. Again, this is all information you guys are probably familiar with, just kind of highlighting currently they're not receiving safety services. We made some notes on the city side of when the last time the roads were repaired, water and sewer infrastructure, things of that nature. All right, Northwest Finley, surrounded by court, right off of Broad, so I know we have some folks from that area, North Town. Nutmeg, Spruce, that area. I'm going to go quick through these. Deer Trail south of town. This is kind of random. I don't know if that property owner's there. Just random one parcel in the middle of nothing.
That is me.
I was a little bit OCD. I'm like, why are there these random pockets? All right, and then along Crystal and Bigelow. I know I'm going quick through these. Now this, I want to be clear, so we are only looking at annexing the property south of 99. I know there was a couple of errors. First of all, I apologize. If you own multiple properties or you don't live at the property, I know some of the mailings got messed up when we did our mail merge, which is a nightmare always. And in the letter, it had the mailing address as the property address. So hopefully you looked at the parcel number, because the parcel number is the one that ties. For some reason it got tweaked, so I apologize for that. And we can give you a new letter if you would like a new letter that specifies that. Just send me an email, mayor@finleyohio.com, and get you guys that, or .gov. All right, and then this is the intersection of Bright Road and Sandusky. Right now, the boundary line is actually on the north side of the road, and actually in some areas it encompasses just part of the road. We would like to just get the entire road annexed so that for construction purposes, it's not in the middle of a road. But to be clear, we are not proposing annexing the property south of 568. Okay? So now I'm going through some of the kind of frequently asked questions, and I know that the more thorough information.
Ask a quick question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So, our area is not on any of those maps.
Okay, where are you located?
We are Liberty Township, where you showed, area 2 and 4, somewhere like that. Not that one, there.
Okay.
We're south, so Edith, Del Monte, Cottonwood, Ferndale.
Okay, and you received a mailing?
Yes.
Okay.
Which I think was sort of surprising to all of us because we had talked about how we saw in the paper what was happening, went and looked at the maps.
Okay.
See our neighborhood.
Mind what's the address?
If you want to come up here, if you don't want to tell.
It's anywhere on TV, like,
Yeah, and that may be an area that's not annexed, and I just didn't put an updated map showing it, so most likely your area just doesn't have any annexation agreements in place.
What about Liberty, Cottonwood?
So that was just what she was referencing. So if you received a mailing, yeah, so I just didn't have a slide showing that area, which just most likely means that we don't have any annexation agreements in place. Yeah, so, but if you received a letter, assume that we would like to annex. All right, so getting into some of the FAQs. One thing, a question that we get frequently is, okay, if we annex into the city, does that mean we go into the Findlay City School District? It does not. The state school boundaries, or district boundaries, are set by the state, so no matter which city, township you live in, your school district is not impacted. Next, property tax. So the city of Findlay does have a property tax. You can look at the tax grid, and I know the link ended up not working, of course. I'm so glad that the county updated their website, but of course they did it right after I sent you guys the mailing, so the links changed. I apologize. The new one is out on our website, and that has the tax rate. So you can look at your township and see how the tax rate would change between the township and the city. The city property tax is less than all of the townships. So it would be a slight decrease there. Income tax. So if you do not currently work in the city of Findlay, and you work in another municipality, so you are still working and receiving income from that, you would be subject to the 1% income tax. If you are retired, retirement benefits are not taxed by the city of Findlay. If you are working in the city of Findlay currently, your tax rate would not change. You would continue to pay the same income tax that you're paying as living in the township. Water rates. So the city does have different water rates for inside and outside users. So if you are inside the corporation limit, you would be paying a lower rate. It's about, outside users pay about 1.5 times what the inside users pay. So you would see a decrease in your water bill. I touched a little bit on the safety services. So the city of Findlay, as you may have seen, just went from an ISO class 3 to an ISO class 2. That is the rating system by insurance agents and the kind of national insurance standard. And what that does really impacts your property insurance, because it rates what is the likelihood of a significant loss or property damage because of an emergency event. So for example, a fire happens, you have a higher likelihood of significant damage, and again, I'm not trying to be negative, under a volunteer team, right, because it takes longer for them to respond, versus the Findlay Fire Department. So that should help your property insurance decrease. Energy aggregation. So the city does aggregate for gas as well as electric. You would be able to opt out of that if you would like. Hancock Wood Electric would continue, if you are served by Hancock Wood Electric currently, you could continue with them. They do not do the aggregation, so that would change. You would just want to check with them. I'm sorry.
If you are served by Hancock County,
Hancock Wood Electric.
can you switch over to ATP then if you get annexed?
So it depends. because there are territories, so depending on your specific property, we would just have to check which territory you're in. Because some of them, they overlap, and you would be able to choose. Same with the gas segregation, so if you are on, obviously, if you're on a propane system or something like that, you're not connected to the system, that wouldn't change at all. If you're on Columbia Gas, then you would qualify for the city's aggregated rate. Mentioned the property insurance. So with zoning, you would have to comply with city zoning. However, if property aspects of your property that do not currently comply, you would be grandfathered in. I know we've had a couple of folks ask about sidewalks. You would not be forced to add sidewalks in. Now, I say, again, you're not going to be forced. On those areas on Bright Road and Tiffin, we would like to work with you, and the city can help get that done, because there are some higher traffic areas that there is a safety hazard with people. We see them frequently. I'm sure you see them frequently if you live there, going into the road on scooters and different things like that, especially folks that live in senior towers. And so we would like to get some more connectivity and a safer route there for folks going to the school, going to the church, going to the grocery store. We would work with you on putting that in, but you wouldn't be forced to put it in.
What is work with us? What does that mean?
We would figure out whether it's something, okay, if you wanna put it in, you can put it in, and we help, either we come up with an agreement where we're able to help with the materials, or we're able to help with labor, or in the situation of like that Bright Road area, one of the issues is it would be a pretty significant cost because of the ditch. And so one of the things that we've talked about is setting aside some funds to help get sidewalks filled in certain areas. Okay. I think I hit all of the big things. I'm gonna just glance behind me at the team. Was there anything specific I missed? Okay, sorry, I apologize. I should have done this. So if you have a question that you would like answered, I would ask, again, just for the sake of the group, if it can try to keep the questions broad so they apply to more people rather than specific just to your situation, that would be appreciated. What I plan to do is we'll do, 20, 30 minutes of questions, and then what we'll do is kind of disperse, and the team up here, I have probably 5 or 6 folks from our team that will be available for questions, and we can try to have those one-on-one. But again, you can email us, you can call, we can set up an appointment to sit and look at your specific situation. So I'm gonna hand out papers real quick. Hand them up.
Christine,
Yeah.
I just have a quick question to reiterate and make sure I understood you
Yeah.
correctly at the very beginning when you said that we will not be forced to be annexed in if we don't choose to do that. And if we were forced in, it would have to be 61% of our section or area where we live that would say, yes, we want this, versus a no for you to be able to say, well, sorry, but all your neighbors said, yeah, we really want this. And
Correct, it would have to be each grouping. So say there's 10 properties.
right.
We would have to have, 7 folks say yes for us to move forward.
Okay.
And then you would have the same ability to appeal if you would like. But we're not, this is something that we're doing because we think it's beneficial to folks.
Right.
It's clearly worked fine for a while, so I'm not gonna force the issue. I don't need you all coming after me.
Right, I just
I
wanted to
love
make
you,
sure I
it's like-
understood what you were saying at the very beginning
Yes.
of the meeting correctly.
Yep, no, that's great. I
Thank you.
appreciate the clarification. Sorry, 51, so 6%. I was trying to make the standard higher. I was overachieving. Yeah, 51%, thank you.
Mayor?
Yeah,
This sort of goes along with her question. We live on Longmeadow in that area. On your spreadsheet, it shows that we have sent us to annexation, and we have not sent any paperwork in it or anything.
no, so what that yes is saying is that an agreement to annex is on file. So that goes back to whenever your property was connected to the City of Findlay sewer system, an agreement to annex was signed.
Okay, even if
Now-
it wasn't by us.
Correct. Whenever, whoever the property owner was at the time, it's just like a deed restriction.
What choice were we given when you brought the city sewer down though? I mean, I looked at him and said, I don't wanna sign this. What choice, you gave me no choice but to the city sewer. You gave me a limitation of 5 years, but there's still no choice.
So that goes
So
back.
then we come in and I'm like, I don't sign this, what choice are you giving me?
Yeah,
For
so
the-
that,
and I was told at the time, it's no big deal, they've never done residential. They probably never have. That was what I was given the city engineer's office when I didn't wanna sign it.
yeah.
There's no choice there, so that you have an agreement.
Yeah, so that
I
goes back,
objected.
so that goes back, okay, so I know your situation was a little different because obviously you had septic tanks that the Ohio Department of Health and the Ohio EPA said have to be phased out because of the connection. So
We
it
weren't
was our
phased out,
standard
so
process.
We weren't given the opportunity to upgrade that, no one let us know. Lots of it, I mean.
Okay, so again, I'm not gonna force it, and unless you get 51% of your neighborhood to sign it, then we would be moving
Our
forward.
neighborhood was forced to sign it, to get some sewer, we didn't have a choice to get it.
Correct, 51, my apologies. All right, other questions? And then, yeah, I'll let them,
How are
Jim.
we keeping track of the no votes? Because in the paperwork, it said, hey, if you want this, turn this paperwork in. There was no means for people that weren't interested to say, hey, no, I'm not. So is it strictly, you're counting the people that turn the paperwork in?
Yep, correct,
And
so
then-
it's pretty much an opt-in.
It's just an opt-in?
If you don't
and
respond,
if
then
there's
we're moving on.
20 houses in your area and 11 of them say yes, then you would consider that area.
Yes.
Okay.
Jim?
Christina, you might want to talk with these folks directly with regard, we've got our neighborhood enforcement abatement team leader here. The officer does a wonderful job, but we do have neat laws in place, they're criminal, not civil, explaining, and if you're considering any delay in the enforcement of those, with those annexations, where people will have to be aware of those if they have special properties, the needs, I think is worth touching on.
Yeah, so Auditor Stashak was just clarifying the zoning and neat regulations that the city has in place. So again, the majority of the issues are grandfathered in. Again, that kind of goes back to your specific scenario. If you're concerned, what I would encourage you to do is call or, get a hold of us and have our zoning team come out and we can say, this is technically not in compliance, but let's document it. That's always the best thing, right? You've noticed probably over the last couple of years, like with the duplexes and triplexes and things, there wasn't documentation on file, so then if you were to go to the bank, you didn't have the necessary paperwork, you were non-conforming. So the best thing for us to be able to do is have somebody come out and say, yep, at time of annexation, this was there, it is, legal, non-conforming, and you're fine. Or if there are certain aspects of your property that you're concerned wouldn't be in compliance, that way we're able to just walk through them with you. Yeah, go ahead.
I had State Farm Insurance, so I don't know if it affects anything else, but I called my insurance agent and they said there would be absolutely no change in my insurance because the fire protection classes were updated some time ago with the insurance. That's just an FYI. The other thing I had a question on was there's, on my property, there's something about a dazzle ditch or something.
Dolls out ditch?
How is that affected, if anything? Is it not? It would
No,
still
it would not be
okay.
affected.
Okay.
Yeah, so the 2 points she made, I apologize, was asking about, she just said that with her property insurance, when she called State Farm, they said there wouldn't be a change. Yes, check with your insurance company. Excuse me. And 2, the other question was about Dawsall Ditch and if that would change anything. No, because watersheds and those cover an entire area, the assessments that would be done for any ditch maintenance are consistent across the board. It's not going to depend on if you're in the township or in the city. The lady behind you.
I live on Cottonwood, and Delmonte's here. Quarry Park is in between us. What's gonna happen to Quarry Park if they annex that into the city? Because right now, nobody can even use or access Quarry Park because they've got it so you can't go back in there. And you can't walk in, because if you try and walk in, you get screamed and cussed at and called the sheriff on and everything else if you even try and use Quarry Park in any way whatsoever. And I live right behind Quarry Park is right behind me. And so what's gonna happen to Quarry Park?
Yeah, so I'm not familiar specifically on why it's blocked off in that manner, so I'll have to follow up and find out if
It's been blocked since we've lived there for 14 years.
There are two ways to get in to it. One on the north end, one on the south end. If you try and use one that's on the south end, oh lordy, that woman will come out and call you everything under the sun.
So you're correct, there is access.
And then if people have questions written down, just hold them up real quick. And
Matt Cordillo with Regional Planning. You're correct, that is public property with access to the from alleys from the
But
north
you
and the south.
can't access it. You can't access it.
Correct.
We tried to access
And
it,
that
and we
won't-
got in trouble.
that won't
The sheriff
change.
came to my house and told me that if I drove back in that park ever again, he would have me arrested.
It is public property, so that individual
And
is
you need to
wrong.
let the sheriff know, because he told me, he came
So
right
now it's in the
door, told me
township, that
he
would
would
be a
arrest
sheriff
me.
issue. If it's in the city, that's a city
Wow.
police issue.
yeah, so
But-
we can talk about that offline. I wanna be respectful of everybody else's time. If you wanna send us an email with more information, we can talk to the trustees or sheriff to better understand the situation.
Just to
Yeah.
clear that up, you can't drive back there, there's maintenance vehicles only, but I walk through there all the time through the north entrance.
Well, you can go through the north end, because if you try to go through the south
Well,
end.
my backyard goes up through as well.
I know, but if you try to go through the south end, you're gonna get called
You
names.
can't drive vehicles back there.
All right, if you wrote down questions, if you can, again, try to keep them high level so they pertain to everybody that's taken their time to be here. Yes, sir.
This is a high-level sidewalk question. Okay? We're on Long Meadow Road, so you're telling me we're not gonna be required to put sidewalks in if we don't want?
Correct.
What if the city decides that at one point sidewalks are appropriate? We'll be notified we need to put a sidewalk in, correct?
Well, so this goes back to, again, you guys are being brought in, so you're gonna be kind of legal non-conforming, right? So
I
we're gonna say,
understand, but I've seen areas where it's patchwork, where one guy has a sidewalk, the next door neighbor doesn't, and the next one does.
yeah.
And to me, that's worse than having no sidewalks.
It goes back to your little bit of OCD, right, when you look at the map. No, so that is the situation where we would say, okay, how can we work together to put this in? And each situation is gonna be a little bit different. Does it make sense for the city to come in and do the entire area? Does it make sense for us to work together and say, okay, in some neighborhoods, we've said, listen, we're not gonna do it, but let's facilitate the conversation, and you can get a kind of economies of scale to get a contractor to come in and do the whole strip, and then you're able to work together to do it.
Okay, so let's assume I'm the boat anchor and I don't wanna put a sidewalk in, and you're saying Finley would then come in and put a sidewalk in, and how would that be financed then?
So,
Would I just get a bill, or would it go on the property?
so each situation would be a little bit different, right? Because we could say to the neighborhood, let's work together and let's do an assessment on the neighborhood, you all agree to that. Or we could say, this is an important area like Bright Road where we really need to see it be done, and the city's willing to help pay to get it done. So that's why I'm like, what I can tell you is, as long as we know you didn't have it when we're annexed in, we're gonna document that, and we're not gonna force you. What we will say is, okay, hey, we'd like to do it, how can we maybe work together to get it done?
Got it.
Does that help? Okay, now I'm gonna try to read people's tiny handwriting. Well, so I think I just addressed the sidewalk question. Will the maintenance exist? So maintenance of sidewalks, if you have them currently, that will be handled the same way that we're under our current zoning code. If it is a hazard, we'll notify the property owner to say, hey, this is a trip hazard and you have a certain period of time to get it remedied. If they don't comply, then we go in and fix it and bill them for it. So that would be that situation. Will there be fire hydrants, streetlights, et cetera, installed where they do not currently exist? Fire hydrants, we would have to look at, I know Chief Everly, and the city engineer would look at. Most areas there is sufficient fire hydrants within the area, because I know the townships also require them, so they would most likely be fine, but if we needed to install that infrastructure, that would be the city's expense. And then when we're looking at streetlights, we wouldn't necessarily be adding streetlights, but if so, that would again be the city's expense. All right, I'm gonna try to grab a couple of these. Please introduce the team. All right, so today from the city of Findlay, I know we have Councilwoman Frischie, Auditor Stashak, I know Councilman Russell, Councilman Hellman. I think those are all the people up there. The staff members are Matt Cordonier with Hancock Regional Planning, Rob Martin, the Service Safety Director, Jacqueline Holman, Special Projects Manager, Eric Adkins, Zoning Administrator, Jeremy Kalb, City Engineer, Chief Everly, Fire Chief, Joe Smith, Zoning Enforcement and Police Officer Extraordinaire. I already got Councilman Russell. Did I miss anybody? All right, that is the team. That was an easy one. Okay, I think we just addressed the park issue. Oh my goodness. Given this is an election year, filing deadlines or run position either taxation without representation. All right, so this seems, this question is about elections and the filing deadline, and that if we brought you in now, it would be pretty much taxation without representation. Why are we doing this now? We're really just doing this now because we've had the time to get it organized. We've been talking about this for about a year, working on it for over 6 months. It's just the ability of our team to move a project forward. It has nothing to do with any political, thank you, agenda. Agenda. I should read these ahead of time to make sure nobody writes bad words and just tests me. So again, on the septic systems, it's going to matter the size of your property, how close you are to infrastructure. There's not too many of you, but as long as you have your parcel size, this would be another one. Let's talk about it specifically so we can get the health department involved. All right, so this question was about the agricultural zoning classification. So that is currently being discussed. So in the meantime, we would work with you. So farm animals are currently permitted. Again, we're looking at putting in some standards around those. So depending on the size of your property, there would be restrictions. But again, you're going to be grandfathered in with that. And even in the zoning changes that we're talking about now around farm animals, we're also talking about adding in a grandfathering clause to, again, allow for the farm animals to be able to be maintained. Okay, so again, probably a good situation for us to have a one-on-one conversation and make sure we understand your situation. All right, anybody else have questions that they wrote down? All right, we're gonna do questions for about 10 more minutes and then we'll break up so you can ask individual questions if that's all right. Okay, I'm gonna check. Okay, and then I'll kind of work my way back over if that's all right. Yes, sir.
When or how were we notified about the zoning changes? On Blue Bonnet Drive, we never knew about it until we got the letter. Was it on a form somewhere? Or?
So the annexation that you were
Yeah,
just,
annexation.
Yeah, no, so that was the first conversation. This is the first meeting we're having about it. That was the first notification.
But some people have already signed that they're in favor of it.
Yes.
We don't think we ever got any information about it.
If you are here tonight, I am guessing you received the mailing, and that was the first information.
Okay.
It said they were just quick on their homework and got it back already.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The petition annex here, excuse my ignorance, but the question is the number of owners of real estate sought to be annexed is on my property?
No, okay, so in the mailer, it said to leave those items blank, because what I didn't want to try to do was individualize each of those petitions to your mailer, and so we used a blanket one, so each grouping is gonna be different, right? So you may be a single parcel, and yours would just, and we would just yours. There's other groups here that it's 50 parcels, and what we will do is take all of those petitions together and see for that area, did we get a sufficient number of the total return out of the total section? And then we would fill in that to say we received, and we'll put them all together, 30 of 50 or 29 of 50. Does that make sense?
You're gonna send out another letter then,
Yes.
asking?
No, so that,
if we wanna be annexed in?
no, so that would be the petition you respond. You would just say, yes, I'm willing to annex. And then we will fill in that information for you and then send it back out. Your area, we have received a yes response or a no response, and here's what the process looks like moving forward.
So do I wanna go campaign with to my neighbors and get a petition started that I don't wanna be annexed in?
No, so that goes back to the earlier question. This is an opt-in rather than an opt-out. So if you are for it, then sign the petition and turn it in. If you're not, then you're good to go.
Unless 51% say yes, then you're going to be forced in.
And then we will follow back up to you, and then the paperwork would go filed, and then you're able to express your dislike for that during the public process once it's filed. Yep?
Christine?
Yep, I'm gonna get to a couple of these folks and I'll come back over here. Yes?
How do we find out what our percentage is in our group?
Well, so I need, after March 1st, we'll gather that information, then what I'll probably do is do another press release and put it on the website. That's kind of gonna depend on the response that we get.
So you're gonna public post how many people responded as yes, so
Yeah.
anybody can see it and you'll know.
Yeah.
I guess my biggest, I don't know, question or point, the letter itself does not clearly indicate that it's your choice to be annexed in or not.
Right, it wasn't explained.
No, and it didn't, in nowhere in any kind of wording said if you choose to be annexed in, please sign and mail this in by March. It just says, sign this and send it in by March 1st. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I apologize that it came off that way. Obviously, when you sit and work on something for a while, you
Right.
can read it differently.
But that will make a difference potentially meeting that 51% threshold of neighbors or people that may or may not be aware of what they're actually signing and participating in.
But that's not good because you already got signatures saying they want to annex in. That's not fair.
That wasn't made explicitly clear that it was their choice.
Yeah, so I would say that all of the people that we have received responses from reached out, asked questions, and then signed and responded. So we have not received a ton of responses. We've probably received 15 at this point, and they were all people that were like, I was surprised you annexed me previously, that sounds good. Yeah. Yeah, and if there are other questions that you guys think, you know, obviously I think most of the ones that we're discussing tonight are pretty consistent with what, but if there is another question you think of, please let us know and we'll try to up FAQs to put out there as well. Okay, a couple more questions. Yes, ma'am.
I think the letter is very misleading. I talked to many people after I got my letter. They didn't understand that they had a choice. They thought that was something they had to do.
Yeah.
So you're going to have more for it because they didn't realize that they could choose.
Yeah, and there were 2 letters that went out that are a little bit differently. So the one that for individuals that had an agreement to annex already on file is a little more blunt about pretty much you legally have agreed. So we would like you to move forward, but again, we're not gonna force the issue. I'm not taking people to court and I'm not shutting off people's water, and those are really my only 2 options. So I apologize that it came across that way. We will try to follow up, communicate with folks. This again will be put online, and we'll put out additional FAQs to explain that.
And I know you're bringing up the money that you save, however, I'm not looking at the few dollars that you save with the water bill. I'm looking at what Liberty Township does for us. And that's worth more than the few dollars that we would be saving.
Yeah, and that's perfectly fine. Again, you know, we all live in the same county. We have great trustees. We have great county officials. Again, by no means am I trying to belittle the value that living in a township brings. I'm just offering an opportunity, if you so choose, to be a part of the city and sharing why I believe that's a good decision. And if we move forward, great. If we don't, we don't.
And do I understand this correctly? I went to the township meeting the other night, and they are saying that, in our area anyway, that they have an agreement with the Findlay Fire Department that if needed, they would appear also.
Yeah, we do have mutual aid agreements, I think, with all of our surrounding township fire departments. And obviously, if there's some sort of catastrophic event, we obviously all respond as well.
Thank you.
Yep. Trustee Booker?
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
You were showing the yellow that you said you had signed agreements for, and I think some of those are older. Let's say those people signed that and have since then sold that property and somebody else moved in. Is that going to be counted as a yes, even though the people that now own it don't want to annex?
So no. So it goes back. They would have to sign the petition. That goes back. That just means that an agreement to annex is technically on file.
So they
but
have to sign a new one.
They have not signed a new one. That just goes back to, again, it should have previously been exercised. It was not. My only 2 course of, options at this point would be taking folks to court or turning off water. That's not being a good neighbor. we're not gonna be doing that. I know I'm giving you guys all of my chips here, but, yeah, definitely.
I'd like you to address the discrepancy, if you would. Your area maps, when they originally came out, had 2 additional maps on there, and your list of properties on your list have some of those residents still listed, or some of those properties listed. I know one of those properties was an area on the north side of County Road 99, heading west out to County Road 140. Now, the map is no longer on your website, but some of the property owners are still listed on your list. Could you address that?
Yeah, happy to. So Jeff, the version of that got put onto the website initially, and it was only up there for a couple of hours, if you recall, was actually the version that I had actually spoke with the different trustees and commissioners about back in June. And so what had happened is back in June, or maybe even before that, we had kind of started talking about this. We talked to planning and zoning, hey, this is something we'd like to look at. And at that time, we did include Brookstone. We included some properties on 99 out to the west. Excuse me, need a humidifier in here. Out to the west, as well as some properties north. As we talked to the trustees, they had concerns about those, and so those were removed. If they were not removed from my database that is listed there, please let me know, because that is just, we lost a staff member that was helping me a lot with that, and probably was just missed, so let me know. But no, those Brookstone, west of 99, there are a couple of properties that have reached out to us and are wanting to annex that are in those areas. But again, if you receive it and you're in those areas and you don't want to annex, you don't need to respond. Yes?
We live on Edith, and we actually go through our driveway to get back to Court Park. But I've never yelled.
No.
If we can avoid drama, that would be great. No fist fights, please.
It's the lady on the south end.
You trust, they're still your problem.
There's a reason why things are up.
But my concern is would they ever zone or develop Court? That would be my concern. I bought it because I have a beautiful backyard and it's not mine. And Liberty Township owns it, and they come and suck up my. I have pictures of posted on Facebook. We just retired here, and I have never seen anything like that in my life. So is the city of Philly gonna come and suck up my?
Oh, come
Ask you guys done.
Yeah, so, oh, can you address it?
If Cory Park were, one, it's public property, and two, it has minimal road front, it's not a developable parcel. So it will just remain green space.
Liberty Township does pay taxes on that park.
So if someone purchased that property from a local municipality, the Findlay zoning would not allow them to develop it.
All right, so this gentleman and you, and then we're done, and we'll still be available for questions, but we'll kind of let those who may want to leave. All right, go ahead, please.
Reading the Ohio Revised Code this morning, isn't there a limit, a time limit on an agreement to annex?
Not that I am familiar with.
30 days, I believe.
It was 180 days.
I'm not familiar with that, but you could be correct, but I don't believe so. But again, we're not forcing those. If they've been recorded with the clerk of court, we could follow up, because then it should be documented that it's no longer in effect.
But you sent a letter out saying that there was an agreement signed. It's kind of misleading.
I think we've already established that folks felt that the letter was misleading.
It'd be nice if we could send out another letter more clearly stating that there is an option available, that, hey, only turn this in if you want to be annexed, you do not have to turn it in, you know, a little bit clearer to the people. It might help a lot.
Mayor, I'd say our office we've taken about 30 to 40 phone calls, and this is the first, it's the first time we've heard that concern. It's not that it's not a valid concern, but we've worked with a lot of folks, and this is is the first time that I've heard there's any confusion about the form. So, just a note.
All right? We heard you guys, okay? We'll see what type of communication we wanna follow up on. Go ahead.
Yeah, the difference in talking amongst themselves, because I've heard lots of confusion about the forms. So if people have confusion, call you guys.
Well, there's clearly lots of confusion because trustees are sending out letters to people who are annexing, so.
So I went to the township meeting about this, and there were a lot of people there, and one of the things, there were many, but two of the things they were concerned about were the services, leaf pickup and snow removal. And they all said it's really easy to get into us, we're on Del Monte, and so it's real close for them. So we're concerned about like snow removal, because we get some snow at night, they're there first thing in the morning, and it's all plowed. So people were concerned about not having the kind of tender care that we had from you all. I want to say yes, that we're concerned that we're not going to have those kind of services any longer, and so.
Yeah.
people
Well,
are interested.
yeah, no, understandable, valid concern, so I have full confidence in the Finley team to be able to clean the roadways and keep them safe. And then regarding the leaf pickup, we do not do, sucking up the leaves, you do have to bag them and put them at your curb, and then we do pick them up. All right, I think we have two questions over here. You're gonna have to raise your hand again because I forget who it was. Do you still have questions, or are you? Thank you. You're blending in. To the brick wall.
The question, when you had your list with sidewalks and all that, you didn't touch base, and if you don't mind, on the impacts of the townships. You just missed that. I did.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That was not intentional because I know that on the FAQs, we do have that listed out there. So with each of the townships, we do have revenue sharing agreements in place, except for with Allen Township, they have not executed. So there's two different things. So with with Allen, because they do not have a revenue sharing agreement in place, it falls under the Ohio Revised Code, which has a revenue sharing breakdown that the city of Findlay would have to remit back to them portions of the property taxes that would be collected back to them over a period, I think it's 12 years is what we have in place. And it is based off of the types of properties. So that is available, kind of an explanation of that is on the website. I don't think we provide the specific revenue sharing breakdowns, but we can add that on there, what the revenue sharing agreement is. But we do have an agreement in place to work with the township. It obviously would be an impact to their revenue over time. And once we kind of have a better understanding of that, we can certainly talk with the townships to make sure that we work with them we can even do one-off agreements to give them revenue longer term to make sure that it's not a significant blow too quickly, anything like that. Yes.
My guess is if the city's gonna work with somebody, you're working with is gonna come out on the short end of the stick. That's normally the way this works. So I appreciate, you're going to work with and so on, just like the sidewalks. The city going to work with somebody may not be a good idea for the people who actually live there.
I'm sorry that you feel that way. I don't think there's anything I can do except for prove you wrong in that situation, but I have to be given the opportunity to do that.
That would be good.
Unfortunately, we have to back up on one of the things that why a lot of people are here, which is when we went to do the sewer connections, we were told that this document that we were filling out, that we were required to fill out, had nothing to do with anything, and that we would not be in this meeting right now talking about this. Seriously. So
yeah, you came
you're
and
asking for a
forced
lot of
us
trust.
to take the sewer so you could do an economic expansion, and then you forced us to pay for the sewer. This is before you arrived on the scene.
Right. So our
I
level
have
of
tens of
trust is
thousands
really
of
low right
dollars in an expansion of your sewer, and then you had the gall to shove a piece of paper in front of me, sign this, that I am agreeing to go into the city of Findlay. I did not sign that paper. If that is what you're going to try to hold against me, I'm going to require you to come up with my signature on a piece of paper in a court of law.
Well, sir, as I've already specified, I'm not taking anybody to court, so if it doesn't get the signature, then we're moving forward. As in,
Well,
we'll
you said you
move
had
along.
agreements. A lot of these agreements really aren't agreements. They were at
It has been the process that has been used for decades across
And
the
it's
state.
illegal as hell. Not just that, it's immoral as hell. It's a violation of at least one or two statutes in our Constitution as a nation. Look into it, understand that's why you have this problem. Your predecessors were less than honest with us in the past. That's why you're standing here today trying to change our minds to do what you want us to do.
Well, you know what? I am happy to look because, as I've said, I'm a kind of a process person and I like to make sure that we are cleaning things. And so, you know what? You bring up a very good point, if I may finish.
Go ahead.
You bring up a very good point, and as did the gentleman back here. If they're no longer enforceable, they're no longer on record, then we probably need to go back, or are not legal. If that has been proven, then we can go through and then let's document that those are no longer in effect so that then it is clear moving forward that that is not the case.
Now, the city of Findlay annexes these properties. They had to put out money to bring your sewer to them without a choice. Is the city going to pay back that money that they took for that sewer?
Sir, I think we both know the answer to that.
And you're wrong about that as well. That's also a legal contention.
All right, we can talk separately. If you have a
You don't
legal
need to,
issue that
because
you
you've
want to
already
address, we
answered
can do
your
so
answer.
separately. I know I've taken more time than I said I was going to take. Hopefully this was helpful. Yeah, one final one.
To go, you said there was a link somewhere that we could go now to see what our taxes would be?
Yes, so I updated the links. You can also just Google, I think it's called Hancock County, Ohio tax rate. And it has the tax table from the Hancock County auditor and you can pretty much find, like, it has each of the townships listed, it has cities, and it breaks down your property taxes, your income taxes based off of your school district and corporation.
So you put in an address or something and?
No, it's just a table, so it gets a little confusing, so give me a call but you should be able to figure out, like, I'm in Findlay Corporation limits, Findlay City Schools, here's my line of taxes. I'm in City Corporation Van Buren School, here's what mine is.
So it's not like a calculator thing?
No.
Okay.
Nope. All right. Jeff, you're really pushing it here.
This is an easy one. The database on your website,
Mhm.
it tracks who says yes and no. Is that updated regularly?
No, okay, so again, maybe we'll just remove that column. The yes on the database on our website is just saying that an annexation agreement was on file. We have not, that does not represent anybody who has returned their petition. Correct.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if we'll put it in, I probably won't do, okay, don't take this the wrong way, guys. I'm probably not gonna list the individual properties that have responded, how you have responded. What I will instead put is a grouping and a count of yeses and nos.
So in the interest of transparency, if someone disagrees with that, you'll have those names that will be accessible?
It's all public record,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
but I also don't want
Yeah,
you
you don't
all
wanna just throw it
harassing your
out there.
neighbors.
Exactly.
So I'm going
Apparently it's a sheriff problem, not
True, but again, it's all good neighbors, so. All right, we'll call it quits for tonight. Again, we'll stick around for a while to answer questions. My email is mayor@findlayohio.gov. It's pretty, well, that's not gonna help you. findlayohio.gov. You can email us. Our regional planning's phone number is on the documents you received. If you have questions, don't hesitate. We're happy to sit down and go, again, one-on-one to answer specific questions. We can have zoning come out and look at things that may be of concern. Appreciate you all taking the time to come tonight and for being civil so far.
Any other person.